Okay, guys, what we're going to talk about is databases. And when they do research, oftentimes what they do is when it comes to shots fired in a self defense situation, what they do is they mix in law enforcement, military, and gangs. And that should not be put in the database because it's totally different than a trained citizen or an untrained citizen. It's totally different, the amount of shots fired. So, for an example, on this side, I gave 6 rounds fired in a defense situation. And on this side, I gave 3 rounds fired in a defense situation. Now, on the citizen side, I'm not talking about praying and spraying. I'm talking about well placed shots, and you're a trained citizen. That's what we want in the database. We want to find out how many trained citizens are out there that are in defense situations that make well placed shots and they're not just spraying and praying like the gangs over here. Because if you enter the database, in the database, the gangs, when they're firing, whole mag dumps like 17 rounds, that doesn't mean that you need that many in a defense situation. But that data will corrupt the citizens' data of what they need in a defense situation. You see where I'm coming from? The reason why military and law enforcement need more rounds is because they have to go chase the guys that are armed. Whereas you and me, we can stay behind cover and hold our position. We don't have to go chase. When you go chase, you're going to need more ammo. You're going to need more resources because you're not staying put. You're actually going to them where you could be ambushed, and you're going to need more resources like bulletproof vests. You're going to need a rifle and stuff like that. And to give you a small example, I'm going to show you a piece of cover here with a citizen versus law enforcement so you understand where I'm coming from. The question isn't how many shots are fired in a defense situation, but how many you needed to fire in a defense situation. You don't want to be praying and spraying, and you're not going to be you're not going to be a perfect shot, but you do have to focus on your shot placement, no matter if you have 17 rounds or if you have a 5-shot revolver. And the thing with the 5-shot revolver everybody's missing is that with the revolvers, people carry speed loaders and speed strips, so they're not exactly just carrying a 5-shot revolver. A lot of you forget that it's not just a 5-shot revolver. They do have extra ammo with them. So a revolver isn't a death sentence for a defense situation. Matter of fact, for as many revolvers you can find in a citizen-based data as far as defense, as many revolvers you find that fail in a defense situation, you can find just as many semi-autos and large calibers and stuff like that. So that's why a 22 and a 5-shot revolver are successful in defense situations, and they are perfectly good for self-defense. So what I want to show you here, it's more about the person, not the gun and the ammunition. So what I want to show you here is a piece of cover, and here's the citizen, here's a law enforcement officer. As a citizen, what's going to happen is you're going to end up in a defense situation. Now, let's say you got 3 guys right here, and these 3 guys are after you. What you have to understand about a citizen, how it's different than law enforcement, is what you're going to do is you're just going to get them off your back. You're just going to shoot a couple times and take cover. And if these guys should run away, if they should run over here, then you don't have to pursue them like law enforcement would, which means you need less ammo. Law enforcement would be here. They would take their cover, of course, but now you're obligated to go after these armed guys, and that's going to take more ammunition. And that's one of the reasons why they don't have revolvers. Could they have a revolver? Sure. Speed loaders? Sure. But the thing you have to understand is that there's a big difference between law enforcement, military, gangs, and when it comes to the private citizen. There's a big difference. What we want to do is we want to gather research where a trained citizen uses their firearm, not praying and spraying, but well-placed shots. We want to know the data on how many shots were fired in that situation. And then military, gangs, and law enforcement, we want to completely keep that out because we don't care that a gang does mag dumps, okay? That's not using a firearm wisely in self-defense. That's just what they call pray and spray, okay? If we enter that in the database, it's going to corrupt our data of decent citizens who have training that are going to shoot well and aren't going to just dump magazines. So this is one of the reasons why everything is corrupted when it comes to what caliber you should use and how many rounds you should use in a defense situation. The data has been corrupted because it's the way they research the data is what counts, and they're not researching it properly. You have to separate these two. Comparing law enforcement to the average citizen is like comparing a guy that races on dirt tracks with NASCAR. It's totally different. Totally different things that a law enforcement officer goes through than a private citizen. So what we have to understand about shots fired in a defense situation, when somebody claims that you need 9 just so they could bash revolvers, that's just not true. A lot of times you don't need 9 rounds in a defense situation. It's more like 2 or 3, as far as we know from just checking citizens, but not comparing it to law enforcement, military, and gangs. When you add this together with this, you're going to have a higher round count to have or need in a defense situation, whereas the private trained citizen that doesn't pray and spray, that's good with their weapon and knows how to use it, is probably only going to shoot 3 rounds in an average defense situation. Because the defense situation goes so quickly, everybody scatters. And like I said, with law enforcement, when everybody scatters, the law enforcement officer, now he's got to go chase them armed guys, whereas you can just stay where you're at. So that's the point I'm trying to make. So a lot of people look at this the wrong way, and they don't understand that the research is corrupt. The research isn't correct on what it takes for a trained armed citizen to defend themselves, as far as more than just ammo capacity, but caliber and stuff like that. And what we found is that for every 22 or revolver that fails in a defense situation with just a trained citizen or an untrained citizen, that you will find just as many semi-autos, larger calibers that fail in defense situations. So what does that mean? That means that you're not doomed with a revolver. You're not doomed with a 22. It's more about you being behind the gun in your training than it is the ammo capacity or the caliber. If I make one hit to the heart with a 22, you're going to eventually lose your blood pressure. But if I hit you in the gut with a 45, you might be walking around living for quite a while. So shot placement is critical. And you're less likely with a smaller caliber, like if you have a 22 Buckmark, you can aim and you can hit quickly with a mag dump if you should have to do a mag dump, all in the same area, whereas other calibers you might have more recoil. You might not be able to handle the recoil as much as other people can. So some people can handle more recoil and still get off rapid shots, but some can't. So it's all a matter of the person and how well they shoot the gun. It's not the caliber, it's not the ammo capacity. So we have to understand that. So anyway, thank you very much for watching.